Everyone. My name is Jerry Hine from the Executive Protection Institute. We have an exciting webinar today to talk about the A.L.I.V.E shooter training program that was created by Michael Julian. I was aware of it, but one of my clients asked to provide active shooter training. So I started looking more deeply at the A.L.I.V.E program, and I was actually blown away. I was pretty excited about it. And so I reached out to Michael. I said, hey, I want EPI to host this program and really support it. So based on that, that's why we're having the webinar today. So I'd like to introduce to you Michael Julian. I met Michael first when he attended the Executive Protection 7-day program back at class 55. And Michael mentioned that was almost 20 years ago. We're getting ready for class 85. So Michael is the owner of MPS Security and Protection. He worked with his father in a PI business called National Business Investigations. And Michael's been very involved in the protection and investigation community. He's the past president of A.L.I.V.E, and I believe he held that position for about 3 years. And A.L.I.V.E is a huge private investigation and security organization in California. He's also the past president of NCISS, which is a national investigation company that is involved with, in a way, lobbying our nation's capital on private investigation issues. He's also a board member of the Missing Children organization. He's also with ASIS, the EP Council, of which I'm actually the vice chair. And Michael's also the recipient of the COBETS Achievement Award. So Michael, how about welcome, and why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more?
Thanks, Jerry. Well, hello, everybody. I'm glad to see so many people and actually a few faces that are familiar. Jim, Bob, how you doing, guys? My background basically is I grew up in this business, investigations and security, my entire life. My father started our company in 1967. He was in the military right out of high school. After that, he was a cop. And then he went out on his own and started a PI and security company. And then when I was born, I literally was born into the business. So it's pretty much the only thing I know how to do is security and investigations. He passed away rather suddenly in 1997. I took over the company really knowing nothing about business. I was a field guy. And so at that point, I began my education as a businessman. So I went from security and investigations to really a businessman. And that's what I've been working on achieving a high level of ever since, so that I can be a successful businessman. We've grown the company pretty dramatically from its origin. We're very fortunate, pretty successful. We have a uniform division, an executive protection division, and then we do corporate and legal investigations pretty much throughout the country.
Outstanding. Hey, before you tell us about the program, I just want to mention everybody online, if you have a question, we will have a time at the end of the webinar in about 40 minutes or so for questions and answers. What you can do is use the chat window, put in your question, and then at the end, I'll pick probably a selection of some of the questions. So Michael, what was the motivation of creating the A.L.I.V.E program? How did you start the program?
Frustration and anger. I was seeing these active shooter events unfold and watching good people die at the hands of bad people, and feeling completely helpless and wondering, why are you not doing anything other than what you're doing? And I literally just felt angst over the idea. And I was thinking to myself, why are these people not doing A, B, or C? And then it was my own, I guess, not arrogance, but, I grew up with a father who taught me situational awareness and knowing your surroundings and knowing how to react. And I just took for granted that I thought everybody knew how to do that, which was stupid on my part. So I thought, well, why are these people not doing that? And I realized no one ever taught them. They're not stupid people. They're they get caught up in the fear and the anxiety and the panic of what happens when they're suddenly faced with a situation like this, and they've never been taught what to do. So I thought, well, how do I teach them? How do I relieve this feeling I have of frustration that these people are dying when they don't have to? And I thought, well, I'll start teaching it. So I started taking instructor courses. I went through the advanced A.L.I.V.E instructor course, a 2-day course, took some other courses. And over the time that I took these, and while I'm sitting there being taught these courses, which are fine courses, I will rarely ever put down another active shooter course unless they're doing things like not telling people a guy's going to burst through the door with a gun and fire caps and then someone has a heart attack, or the business next door that doesn't know there's training going on calls the cops and the cops are not happy about that. Otherwise, I'm not going to put them down, but I'm thinking there are deficits. It's not what I believe to be perfect or exactly how I would teach people. So I was sitting in one instructor certification course, and I'm listening to the instructor, who was a fine instructor, and it was not a bad course, but I'm thinking I would do this differently. And it just dawned on me, why don't I? And I literally in that course started experimenting with acronyms, an acronym that would spell out the steps of what I believe you need to do to survive in a something that makes sense and is easy to remember. And that's how I came up with the A.L.I.V.E program.
Outstanding. One thing that you use, which I just absolutely love, you call it Active Shooter 2.0.
Run, Hide, Fight 2.0.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Run, Hide, Fight. And I love that because I think I recently hosted a House of Worship church security symposium for ASIS, our local chapter, and we had the local director of Homeland Security come in, and he basically taught that program. And it's good, but I felt also like you said, frustration. I felt like it's got to be more than that. Tell us a little bit about the program.
Well, what I present in my in-person and online course, I say, look, Run, Hide, Fight was a great first edition, great first version. But the first version of any new product or service or anything is not perfect. You create something and then you learn from the feedback and the responses and how well it works, what's wrong with it, and then you improve it. You take it to the next level. So Run, Hide, Fight was a great start, a great foundation. But even in the video that I show in my presentation, there are some flaws. There's some things that really could or should be differently. So it just kind of occurred to me that since most of us that do this sort of thing, we create our own program, we start somewhere, and Run, Hide, Fight was the first version. It's really kind of like the evolution of Run, Hide, Fight to the 2.0 level. It's the next best improved version from Run, Hide, Fight.
So you mentioned your online program, which is outstanding, and I tell you, a fabulous job putting that together. It's interactive. So for everybody online, please check it out. I absolutely recommend it. But you also mentioned that you presented live. So you're available to say go to a corporation and give a live presentation?
Yeah, the first product or the first training that I created was a live in-person version, and it's as short as 2 hours, depending on the client's availability of their employees, as much as 3 hours for the first module. The first module is all classroom. The second module is a hands-on scenarios, acting it out, doing it in person, hopefully in their place of worship or where they work, so it's totally familiar to them. So I started doing the in-person. It took off faster than I expected. I was happy about that, but there were still a large market of people, people whose employers are not going to pay for it. Just the average citizen who doesn't have somebody that's going to pay for it or didn't have a venue, because I don't say, hey, next month in Dallas, we're going to do a 3-hour active shooter program. That's not my business model. And I thought, well, there are people that should learn this information and I'm not getting it out to them. What do I do? So I wrote the book, 10 Minutes to Live. and essentially created the book, wrote the book based on that program. So the book was published, it started doing very well, and I thought, well, this is great, but I can't, the ones that do want to see it, I can't teach it in person all over the place. And in 2018, I did nothing but travel. Saw way too many hotel rooms all over the country. And I thought, how do I get it out to even more people? I either need to duplicate myself, which I ended up doing anyway, or create an online version. So I had one of my presentations videotaped from about 5 or 6 different angles. And then I had the videographer guy edit it together so that it looks, you know, there's some decent production value. It's not like a television show, but there's okay production value. And then I took that video and I found what's called an LMS, a learning management system. And I chopped up the video and put it in lessons online. So now you can actually take the course online at your own speed from any computer, and, you know, bit by bit. And it's essentially clips of video of my presentation. So it's though you're there, but obviously it's much more convenient because you can do it at your own speed. But there's, you know, a quiz, you know, there's a survey, there's a final exam. And then if you pass the final exam, you get a certificate. Now, my course, I have not tried to get it accredited by any university. So I'm not going to tell you if you take this course, you're going to be a certified A.L.I.V.E guy, but you do get a certificate. And the businesses that hire me and my instructors to come in and give the course, if 80% or more of their employees take it, then I do what's called, they are a A.L.I.V.E certified employer or business, and they get a plaque that they can put on the wall. And it's goodwill, it's good marketing. It makes their employees feel good to know that they care enough to spend the money on me or one of my instructors to come in and give that training. And what I like about that is if I do it for employees, then all those employees are on the same page. It's like EPI. When I'm looking to hire EP agents, if they've got EPI or one of the other schools on there, I know their curriculum. I know they're all on the same page. They're going to work together if they're a team of graduates of EPI or whatever. But then I thought, well, I don't want to travel and train all the time, and the online course is great. But then I created the A.L.I.V.E instructor certification course. So I have a 2-day course where guys come, and I've had them here in California, but now we're going to have one in New York City, sponsored or hosted by you, which I'm really excited about. And guys come in, and for 2 days, we're in a classroom and we go over multiple modules of the course, of how to teach the course with the passion that I want them to teach it with. I give them tips on how to be a good public speaker and trainer. I even bring a professional marketing guy to come in, because this is a business model. This is, you know, A.L.I.V.E, which everyone's heard of. You can become an A.L.I.V.E instructor, but you cannot then charge people when you give them that training. Mine is a business. And so I expect my instructors to market it well and get people to sign up, and then they can charge for it, because it is a valuable life-saving course and information. And so it's got value. So I've got the in-person, I've got the book, I've got the online, and then the instructor certification course. Did that answer your question? I kind of went off on a tangent a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. And for everyone online, the link to where you can get information about the online course is on our training calendar page. It says A.L.I.V.E. If you go to personalprotection.com/training, and then you'll see the A.L.I.V.E button, and that will take you to the online course. Michael, you mentioned the instructor program that we are going to host coming up in July in New York. Tell us a little bit about, well, one is, you mentioned early on about acronyms, and you played around, and you have an acronym for A.L.I.V.E, and I absolutely love it. I think it's a good way to remember things. So can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So A.L.I.V.E stands for Assess, Leave, Impede, Violence, and Expose. And you probably can identify that the leave, impede, and violence are essentially run, hide, fight. But what is different about my course from all the courses that I have taken, and I take every one I can possibly go to, to compare, maybe to learn, to make mine better or to see the deficits in theirs, is most of these courses focus on method, on the physical function of survival, which obviously is massively important. Run, hide, fight is 100% a physical acts. But what I promote equally as important as function is the mindset that you have got to have to carry out that function appropriately. And the analogy I use is, you could have a person that is physically the most athletic and fastest runner in the world, but if they do not have a burning desire to win and to beat their competition, and in this case, the competition is a guy or woman trying to kill you, if you don't have that mindset and that burning desire in your brain and the emotional attachment and investment, you're not going to be as effective. So I teach mindset and method equally. So I start with the assess process, and I think the assess process is so valuable because if you've seen videos of these poor victims, many of them literally freeze when this happens. One, because no one ever taught them what to do. Two, it's an extremely it's a crazy amount of pressure to be under when all of a sudden somebody is shooting in your direction or at you and trying to kill you. So that's overwhelming to many people, especially the sheep. And we all know about the sheep and the wolves and the sheepdog. If you're not prone or trained like we are to react appropriately, keep your right mind and follow a certain pattern or steps to do what we know how to do, you're not going to do it. You're going to literally lock up. And that's why there's fight, freeze, and flight. If you don't know to fight, you're probably going to freeze. And flight obviously is our first choice. We want to get out of there if we can. But if we don't know how to do any of that, we're going to freeze. So I teach the the very first step of assess, to immediately lock it down, take your heart and your emotions out of it, and let your brain go back to your level of training, which is A.L.I.V.E or whatever any of you have had training in. And that is what you're going to default to, and you'll have a much greater chance of survival. So I go through assess, and then leave obviously is run. Impede, I don't like hide. Hide seems like a victim type of word and feeling. So when you impede somebody, you're taking the power, you're using the power you have to create time and space to keep them away from you or make it difficult to get to you. Violence is the V in A.L.I.V.E, and that is the fight. And I like the word violence because to me, violence, it's a strong, powerful word that you use and engage this person with violence. And then expose is, run, hide, fight. If you've seen the video, there's run, hide, fight. But after every one of the slides, there's like 5 or 6 bullet points. Expose is one of the bullet points at the end. You expose your position carefully so that you, one, don't run into there might be another shooter, or he might be reloading, or you might take off running thinking it's over and come around the corner with your cell phone in your hand, and SWAT or, the response law enforcement doesn't know, you're a good guy, and they might pop you. So that's what A.L.I.V.E stands for. Outstanding.
I think it really encapsulates, and like you said, it's the Run, Hide, Fight 2.0. You delve deeper into it and you share. And I think you're absolutely right. Mindset is so important. It's an ugly topic. And I think for some, the mere thought of being involved in an active shooter, it just, like you said, if they're not ready for it. And I think, after watching and on the online version, you actually have a 20-minute version, right? A 60-minute version, and then the 3-hour version.
Yeah, the online. So I originally had the 3-hour comprehensive course, which I thought, okay, this is great. And then I started getting pushback by HR risk and security managers saying, that's fine, but we can't take, 100 people off the production line or from multiple areas and put them in a classroom for 3 hours. It's just impossible. So then I took it down to an hour, and that's the accelerated course. And it's the 5 steps of A.L.I.V.E, but I put in a lot of detail. I dived down, I drilled down into the 5 steps of A.L.I.V.E. And then I had people say, well, an hour is too long. It won't keep our attention or whatever. And I said, okay, fine. So I created basically the 20-minute online course is as simple as the 6-minute run, hide, fight video. It's the 5 basic steps of A.L.I.V.E, because knowing that is better than knowing nothing. Now, I have no problem with people just saying, well, I'll watch the run, hide, fight video for free. Great. As long as you get some kind of training, you will be much better equipped to survive. However, because I have pride of ownership and I believe in the A.L.I.V.E program, I feel as though the A.L.I.V.E will leave a better impression in the student's mind. And again, I talk about the mindset. People need to understand knowing how to run physically is fine, but not having the mindset of focusing on the finish line, you're probably not going to be as fast a runner.
And you know what, I tell you, I love it. Like you said, any kind of training, and even the 20-minute, it's enough to get their attention. One thing that, for example, in our protection driving program, we tell people we're going to put you in an accident over and over. And then when it happens, you've been there. So even the training that you give, even the 20-minute version, you talk about, and you give them enough. So I think that the hope is that if they hear something and realize I'm an active shooter, and then they're gonna draw back on those lessons that they learned. I wanted to mention, everybody, 10 Minutes to Live is the book that Michael first wrote, and we have that available on our website. For those online, you can go to personalprotection.com. You can find the book there. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Sure.
I think also even that too, if people get a copy of that book and go through it, it's going to give them, additional information, right, that they have with them.
Yeah. So the book, I wrote the book based on the program, but then obviously it's a book. So I put additional information and scenarios and so forth in there. And to give it context, the reason it's called 10 Minutes to Live. Remember I was talking about assess and mindset and so forth. Like in any business book or any coaching where they talk about being successful, goals is always one of, or the most spoken of thing that you must have to be successful, right? You got to have a goal. You've got to know where your endpoint, where your finish line is. The reason I call it 10 Minutes to Live is because all of the greatest body count, biggest, most horrific mass killings, except for the one in Norway, none of them lasted longer than 10 minutes. Virginia Tech, Las Vegas, these were all 10 minutes or less. The reason 10 minutes is important is I tell people you have to have that goal. You need to know it will not, statistically, historically speaking, it won't last longer than 10 minutes. So if you're 2 minutes into it and you're impeding or you're running away or whatever you're doing, keep in mind that it will end soon. We know statistically it will not likely last longer than 10 minutes. 59% last less than 5 minutes. So I want people to be mentally and emotionally focused on an endpoint, on a goal, on their survival, knowing it's going to be over soon, so that they're focused on, okay, this will be over soon, so I'm going to go home to the people that I love, instead of I'm going to die, I'll never see the people I love again. I want their brain focused on it being over and them surviving, not on I'm going to die, because that is not just not empowering, it's demotivating, it's paralyzing to think I'm not going to go home and see my babies ever again, right? So don't focus on that, focus on survival. And so that's why 10 Minutes to Live is what I came up with. And that's why I preach it will be over soon. We know that. So focus on 10 minutes to live. Another major point that I make, and it's in the back of the book. I've got a long list of these events that have happened this way. Most active killers, we know, more than 50% kill themselves before they're taken into custody or killed by law enforcement. And that comes down to the power and control that motivates them. So I talk about the fact that, you know, every second or minute you stay alive, the sooner law enforcement will come. And many of these shooters or killers, and I say active shooter, active killer, and active assailant interchangeably, because they're not all with guns. These people, because their motivation is to not being taken into custody or killed by someone else, because that would take that power and control away from them, which it motivates them to get there. Many of these people, just hearing the sirens approaching, they'll take themselves out. So we want to facilitate that happening as quickly as possible, so they are no longer a threat. So just to recap the assess process, one of the points that I drive home is, for instance, one of the things the issues I have with Run, Hide, Fight. Run, Hide, Fight says, once you're somewhere safe and there's no longer a threat, then call 911. Absolutely not. You can run and talk on the phone at the same time. We do a million things and talk on the phone. You have got to get that clock ticking by calling law enforcement, because the sooner they get there, the sooner this guy will take himself out, or he'll flee, or he will turn his focus on law enforcement rather than killing you.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And I think, and a lot of people online, I'm sure, are protectors. And this training is absolutely essential for protectors also in consideration. I mean, so we have a principal, we're in a shopping mall, and suddenly, and to tell you the truth, I hate active shooter, because I consider myself an active shooter. I go to the range regularly. I'm a firearms instructor. When that was coined, I felt what you said, active killer. They're an active killer. They're killing people, you know, right now. So, but so I think protectors can't, you know, they need this training. It should be part of their protection skills, because you could get caught in that shopping mall when suddenly a shooter, and then a lot of protectors are unarmed. So, you know, everything in your program is applicable for protectors who have a principal you know, during an active shooter situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why I said, well, I'll tell you, part of my motivation for pushing the whole active killer and not just active shooter, if you know who Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman is, he gave me hell because he does not like the term active shooter. He likes active killer. So that's part of the reason that I talk a lot about active killer. But also as is International and some of the other organizations, the protector and security organizations, they are moving and promote the term active assailant. So that's why I use those three terms interchangeably.
Excellent. I think one thing that I studied a little bit is a term called duty of care, and that has to do particularly with I think it came about with NGOs sending people to foreign countries, that those organizations have a duty of care. I think, and I'm not sure that there's any legal requirement for corporations to give active shooter training, but certainly it would fall under duty of care. Or I'm wondering, could you speak about that? Is there an OSHA requirement? Is there a labor requirement for this type of training?
Yeah, when I'm talking to CEOs of companies and HR risk and security managers, one of the things, and I don't necessarily use this as a selling point, it's more of an point of education for these people. So this is really interesting. In 1970, OSHA adopted this thing called the General Duty Clause. It's actually called the OSHA Act of 1970, and it's called the General Duty Clause. And what that states is, each employer shall furnish to each of his employees employment and a place of employment which are free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm to employees. And then it says, number 2, shall comply with occupational safety and health standards promulgated under this act. Now, in 1970, active shooter, that term did not exist. However, now that this phenomenon of active shooters and active killers is so prevalent in our society, that totally relates to that clause. And OSHA has fined companies for not providing this training. For instance, not just every random company, but if they're in a high threat, high risk, or somebody has actually made threats about being, coming down and killing everybody, and they're now on notice, and they don't provide that training, they can be cited, they can be fined. Not only that, but now, and this is all in the presentation, Winnipeg, I want to say Minnesota or Wisconsin, there was an active killer that went in and killed several people, and there was a lawsuit filed, and it cost them millions and millions of dollars because they had not provided the training. So now there's actually case law where there's been litigation successfully against employers for not providing this kind of training. So, we haven't hit the peak yet. Of course, the coronavirus has certainly slowed things down. Thank goodness, at least in that realm, not in just about any other realm. But we've not hit the peak. We're still going up. Every year we have more active killer events, and every year we have a higher body count. 2017 was something else, obviously with Las Vegas and the Christchurch in Texas. But I'm sorry, it was the Texas shooting. What was that? Sutherland Springs. So that was a big one, but we're not done with this. So it's going to continue to go up. So even the risk and HR managers that just want to check the box for liability purposes, they'll usually purchase 50 licenses of the 20-minute program. So at least their people get 20 minutes of some kind of training, so they can show their due diligence in trying to protect their people.
No, absolutely. We live in a litigious society, and that's something that I mentioned. And in some regard, and I transitioned out of property management into security management. So within property management was also fire and life safety. I was actually the past chair of the Fire and Life Safety Council with ASIS. And one thing that interests me was that duty of care. And part of it is, sadly, is to avoid liability. But it's a factor that corporations have to recognize, whether there's a code, a standard, but the possibility of, the cost, and, a lot of times we say cost of diminishing returns. So, to avoid liability. Tell us about, and for everybody online, you can become an instructor. And Michael has developed a instructor program, so you can be authorized to teach this program. Michael, can you tell us about that and how it works also in terms of, so somebody online, like I'm looking at Bob Tucker there, and I'm thinking he's got the passion and drive, he could teach this program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the instructor certification course was really kind of spawned from selfish reasons. I did not want to continue traveling and teaching, and I knew that it was going to continue to grow because it's a good program. But I also knew, because I have a desire to make sure that people have this training, any training, if not mine, to learn how to survive, I decided to create the instructor certification program. So I started that last year. It's a 2-day intense course. There's multiple modules. You can see it on the website. Anybody that signs up, they get a copy of the book and free access to the 3-hour online course, and it's got to be completed before you show up, or you're not going to get the training. I want everybody to be very, very familiar with the training, the process, how I teach it. If you take the online course and see the video, you can see I'm very passionate. I'm very in your face. By the way, when you get some resistance and someone says, why would I pay for you to come give me the training when law enforcement will do it for free? My response is this: law enforcement may come do it for free, but they're going to have to water it way down so they don't offend anybody. They can't be graphic. They can't be gory. They can't cuss. They can't be real about it, which is better than nothing. So if you can't afford the training, fine, just get the training from somebody. But the common comments I get in the evaluations is they talk about the passion. I created this because of the passion and frustration I had, so I deliver it that way. So when I teach my instructors how to teach this, and I go over public speaking tips and how to train, I push the passion part of it. Tony Robbins and these motivational speakers, they don't get on stage and talk like this, and this is what you should do. They get on and they're animated and they're passionate and they're in your face, and they just are exploding with energy, so that the people watching, the spectators and students, feel that energy. It motivates them. It gets them juiced up. That's how my course needs to be taught for the spectator or student to get the most out of it. I want them to feel that energy and excitement inside, and have that translate into how they go about the survival process if they're ever involved in that. And then I teach about the two different mindsets. I think it's very important to understand, to be effective in this, you've got to have a security mindset, which we all know. That is the mindset you have from this second forward up until an event like this starts. And an EPI, I probably relate this to my EPI training. When I went through EPI in 2003, they talked a lot about being a good protector is not shooting straight and kicking ass. It's keeping your principal away from danger so you never have to shoot straight or kick ass. The security mindset is being prepared, spotting what you need to spot, looking for exits, and being prepared or ready so when it does happen, you are. The the survival mindset kicks in the second that event begins. Security mindset's out the window. Doesn't matter, it's already started. Now you go into survival mode. So I talk about the survival mentality, where you get in your head, you use your head and rational thinking rather than the emotional side of things, because that can paralyze you if you allow fear, which I don't think is a bad thing. Fear is a good thing if you listen to it and you process it appropriately. So I talk about that in the instructor cert class. Like I said, this is a business for instructors. And I see Joe Stetsvitz is on. He's one of my instructors. Hey, Joe. It is something that if you own a security company, you've probably been approached by a client and said, hey, do you provide this kind of security training, this active shooter stuff? We need to do it. My CEO's saying we kind of want to have whatever. Instead of you going, watch the Run, Hide, Fight video, you can say, yes, this is absolutely not only a training that we provide, but it's one of the most nationally recognized private active shooter training programs in the country, now internationally, and it's backed up by the book and the online thing. So there's a lot of credibility. So it is a way to market a service that you would not normally have. And I know a lot of guys that try to put their own program together, and maybe it's okay, but it's a lot harder to create something and make it happen properly than it is to take something that's proven and gotten good reviews, learn how to do it, and then create, and then train that or produce that or give that service. So it is a business model. It's based on the way I train. I go through all the training that's in the online course. I recreate that. We watch the video again. I break it down. I break down all the videos of active shooter events that I show. I say, I relate the A.L.I.V.E steps to those actual killing videos and say, this is what you would do and this is what you don't do. In fact, I use the Run, Hide, Fight video and another one of the active shooter videos created by our government as examples of what not to do, because there's frankly some blaring mistakes that they teach that I say, absolutely don't do that, do this. And like I said, I go into marketing the course. One of the coolest things I like about my instructor certification course is a portion of it is everybody at the end of the first day, I give them teach back assignments. And I say, I'll let them choose, or I'll assign it to them, and I'll say, you need to teach this portion of A.L.I.V.E, and you'll have a minimum of 5 minutes to do it. So they go home that night, they study it, they learn it the best they can, and they come back and we videotape them giving that a live presentation. Not only do myself and their peers grade them, but we videotape it, and then afterwards we critique them, and they say, this is what you did good, but this is what you didn't do good. And then I give them the video afterwards, obviously, so they can critique themselves. But that gives them real feedback of how people watching them are understanding them, are affected by them, the energy they're using, a lack or good eye contact, animation, stuttering. Because a lot of people, and me 100%, when you start out doing public speaking, you may not be that great. And I was not that great. I got nervous for years into doing this. But after you do it enough and you learn it, you get better at it. But you don't know how to do it better if somebody doesn't tell you this sucked or this was great. So do more of the great stuff and improve on the not so great stuff.
Yeah, one thing that Dr. Kobetz encouraged everyone at EPI is that you're going to be looked at as a security expert. So the principal may say, you know, hey, I'm buying a new home. You're a security expert. I want you to look at my house and make it safe. And with active shooters too, the principal could easily say, hey, protector, I want you to give a presentation in front of the staff, what to do in an active shooter. And so I think it's important for every protector to really, first of all, they should take your program, whether it's the online version or, but anybody that is involved in the industry or, and like you said, I own a security company too, and we just had a client ask us, that's what led me to your program. But I think it's also important if you're a protection professional to really be able to explain the nuances of what to do in an active shooter. So I think, you know, doing that, I would hope also some of those that are online here would like to consider that. One is within the online course, first of all, they're very nominally priced, right? You have the 20-minute, the 60-minute, then the 3-hour. What is the cost of those programs?
So the 3-hour is $49. And everybody told me, you got to charge more, it's worth more. But you know what? Not everybody can afford more. And frankly, I would rather more people get the training and me make less money than me make more money on less people. I want everybody to get the training. But so it's $49 for the 3-hour course. And if you think that's a lot of money, I would urge you to take the course and then tell me if you think it's got that kind of value or not, because I believe it does. The 1-hour course is $19, and then the 20-minute class is $9. And I just thought that was a good price point that anybody could afford. A lot of people, what I've seen is a lot of people are like, oh, let me stick my toe in, and they pay $9 for the 20-minute, and they're like, then they end up spending more money to get the 3-hour class. And that's fine, however you want to get into it. And I offer a discount if you do that. But, and you know, so I'll be real with everybody here. We're all probably somewhat alpha, or we would not be in this industry. And when I promote the course on social media or LinkedIn or whatever, I oftentimes get these little smart ass comments from these guys that want to be the know-it-all, that are like, oh, you can't teach people, you know, active shooter survival online or with a book or whatever. And what I simply tell them is, I'll tell you what, you take the course and I'll give it to you for free. And if you have anything good to say about it, then you pay me for it. If you don't, then I will take your honest feedback if you think it's shit. Well, so far, nobody that's taken me up on it has said, you know what, it sucks and you can't learn anything from it. Any kind of decent training is better than no training at all. So even the 20-minute course has value because it's better than nothing. It's going to get you thinking proactively. By the way, there's a term that I coined, and I talk about being proactively reactionary, which is really kind of a, you know, they're two opposites. Proactive reactionism is being proactive in creating your response before you need it. So you're literally creating a reaction before you have to be reactionary, before you have to use it. And I think that's a very powerful concept for people to grasp. In the training, I go through a visualization exercise. It usually takes around 5 minutes. And what I do in my classes, I tell everybody, and online too, I say, okay, everybody, close your eyes, and I just want you to think, get inside your head for a second. And I know I'm running out of time, so I'll make this quick. What I do is I lower my voice and I talk very softly, and I say, now picture yourself where you spend the majority of your day. If it's a cubicle, if it's an office, if it's on an assembly line, I want you to close your eyes and visualize yourself there. And then I take them down this path. I'm very vivid, and I talk about how it smells and how it sounds and what you see in your mind's eye and what you feel in your hand or the chair under your ass. And I say, now that you're in that place mentally, I want you to visualize hearing shots at the reception area. What do you do using the 5 steps? Okay, we go through that process. They're now trained on what to do if that specific scenario ever happens. I say, okay, now we did that. Now back up to the beginning where you're sitting there or whatever. Now the shooter is downstairs, or you see him outside your office there. And I talk about that is how you become proactively reactionary. You create a plan before you need it, but you've got to do that in multiple scenarios. Now, once you've trained yourself and you've visualized how you would react, if that ever happens, you've already got a plan, you've already put yourself there mentally, and your reaction and your mindset and your methodology will be that much sharper for actually carrying out those survival steps.
That's outstanding. I love that term, and it speaks volumes. Before we take some questions, what's next for you, Michael?
So I did an update. I wrote the book 2 years ago, so I've done an update to the book. It's not changed enough, I think, to be a second edition. I think it's just an updated. I put some new stats from new shootings in there, new killings. I've refined some of it, just like the PowerPoint I use in my online course, based on feedback and my own experience and the things that I learn. Usually I'll tweak it just a little bit every time I give it to make it more relevant. So right now I am simply proofing that. All of my speaking engagements have been canceled because of COVID, so I'm semi-retired right now. I've got an excellent executive staff that really runs the day-to-day operations of my business, so I don't have to worry about that too much. So I spend a couple of hours in the office every day, and that's about it. But I'm focused on A.L.I.V.E. That's my passion. And I'll tell you, after I was in this business for 28 years before I created A.L.I.V.E. And after 28 years doing the same thing, you tend to get a little burned out. I was done, man. I was like, I did not want to come to the office. A.L.I.V.E. has completely re-energized me. It's given me passion and purpose again. So pretty much everything I do is based on the A.L.I.V.E. program, active shooter. I speak at a lot of the big conferences. You know, that's my life. That's what I enjoy doing now. And that's probably what I will continue to focus on because my business is fine.
Great. There was a shooting in Canada, I think 22 people. Have you looked into that incident?
I read up on it when it happened, but online course purchases went through the roof from people in Canada because I know where they buy. I know where they're at when they buy the course. And every time there's a shooting, the online courses sell like crazy. Oh, by the way, if you become a certified instructor, there's like I don't like to use the term profit share, but there's an affiliate program. So not only do you get paid as an instructor, you get paid more if you sell the course and you teach it. But if you have a client that says, I can't do in person, I want to do online, so I'll buy 50 licenses for my employees, the affiliate program pays everybody for each one of those licenses too. So I am a businessman. Let me be very clear about that. So I am going to talk about monetizing this information. I'm not going to apologize or be embarrassed. It would be great if I could teach everybody in the world to do this for free, but my time is worth something. So when I talk in terms of this as a business model, there is usually some form or fashion of it's a for-profit business. So just be clear, I'm not going to try and be some nonprofit savior. I do monetize this as a business model.
We have one question is, will you be teaching the instructor course in the Pacific Northwest? The person asking is in Seattle area.
No, so far I've only done the West Coast. Our corporate headquarters is in Southern California, about an hour north of San Diego. And I've got a nice big conference room. That's where I've always done it. Until now, I've had a lot of people ask for it on the East Coast. And that's why I think it's such a great opportunity to partner with EPI. Our next California course is June 26th and 27th. So it's in about a month and a half. And then of course, July 24th and 25th is the New York class. Now I've got a couple of guys in Chicago that want to host one. So perhaps we'll do it in Chicago. I can give the instructor certification course anywhere, with my computer and a projector. But it's, if somebody wants to host it, if you get 5 or 6 or 7 people that want to pay for that, I'm happy to go there and put it on there. But this is not just something that this is not for everybody. You have to qualify. You can't have a, felony criminal record. You've got to have enough experience in this world to speak intelligently. But I'm happy to give the course if we have a group of qualified students that want to host.
Outstanding. And for those online that are interested in the New York program, it is in July. The information on the course is on our website, personalprotection.com. And honestly, your online programs are so nominally priced. And then I think also, like you said, anybody online, if you have a connection, and it's easy to be set up as an affiliate, right, Michael, that they can become an affiliate and then direct people to a link, and then anybody that has opportunity to with a corporation or something that may be interested, say in the online program, then they can make a little residual income from that, right?
Yeah, anybody that takes the 3-hour comprehensive course it qualifies to become an affiliate, which basically just means once you sign up for the affiliate program, you get your own link. And so anybody that wants to take that course, you send them their link, they click on the link, it goes back to my site. So it looks just like it would if they went directly to there. And as soon as they make a purchase, it goes into the back office of the learning management system. And then we run a report and show how much we need to pay you guys. So I've had a lot of people who did not become instructors take the 3-hour course, become an affiliate, and promote it to their, everybody at work, their family, whatever. And you get the affiliate percentage on any of the programs, even the $9 ones. So it's not just the 3-hour.
Outstanding. Actually, we got another question here. Is there a difference in training grade school students in high school?
I do not go. I've taught plenty of private schools. Public schools, 1, don't have the budget, and 2, they can get law enforcement to come in and teach their teachers. I have only taught kids, and when I say kids, I don't mean 6-year-olds, 11, 12, 13, when their parents have brought them to my live in-person courses. Otherwise, I teach the teachers. I am very, I'm nervous about teaching kids and telling them to use violence against somebody. Kids are unpredictable. They don't have the same level of logic and rational thinking and control of their fear and emotions to be able to do something. And maybe I'm being selfish, but I don't want to be responsible for telling some 3rd grader to attack a guy with a gun and then them dying. So I focus, a lot of kids, 11, 12, 13, have taken the course and read the book, got great feedback from them and their parents. So I'm comfortable with that, but I don't teach young kids.
Right. Well, I think that's fair enough. One, if those online become an instructor and that's something that you're passionate about, is certainly, I think it could be tailored to, for the appropriate audience. Well, we're right at the 1-hour mark, and Michael has a number of things that he has to go off to. So one is, I wanted to thank Michael for taking the time out to do this webinar.
My pleasure.
Thank everybody that joined in on the program today. I'm a strong advocate of this program. Check it out. One is Michael's done an outstanding job putting it together. The book, the 20-minute program, the 1-hour program, the 3-hour program, and then also for those interested for the instructor program, please go to our website. Michael, once again, thank you so much. And,
Hey, Jerry, let me just mention one thing that I always forget to do when I'm interviewed by the news. I have a website, obviously. Now, anything we do, anything you guys do, I want you to go through EPI because we are partnering on this, and I want it to be an EPI program. But for more information or just to see videos or whatever, my website is activeshootersurvivaltraining.com. So you can see plenty of stuff about me, but if you're going to purchase anything, the book or the programs, or you want to become an instructor, please go through EPI to do that.
no, outstanding. Well, once again, thank you, Michael, and everyone. Thank you for your interest in this program, and please let other people know about it too. All right, very good, Michael. Thank you once again, and everyone that joined us online. Thank you, and we're going to sign off.
Thank you, guys. Great seeing everyone.